I'm a big conspiracy guy, so let's get into it.
All right. So um, one of the things that happened here along the journey of Tether existing was and I just learned about this last night, was this thing called the Paradise Papers. So in 2017, there was a leak of 13.4 million financial documents that revealed the offshore financial dealings of wealthy and powerful people, including politicians, corporations, and celebrities. This leak was actually obtained by a German newspaper and was investigated by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. And this exposed how individuals and key companies use tax havens to avoid taxes, hide assets, and obscure their finances. There was a lot of stuff that came out of this, like Queen Elizabeth II had some stuff that came out. There was tax engineering by Apple and Nike and other secretive deals that were including all these different types of companies. In these papers, there was also some key information about Tether that was leaked. One of the things that was leaked from that was this overlapping ownership structure that we hinted at a little bit earlier, where we found out that the Bitfinex executives were also beneficial owners and founding directors of Tether, despite years of both companies publicly denying a direct relationship. Obviously, that contradicted the previous claims that they were two separate entities, which makes a really big difference because you're talking about a stablecoin and an exchange. And if you have a stablecoin and an exchange under the same house, then you can do a lot of funny business in the markets.
Oh yeah.
The other big thing that came out of this was these offshore incorporations. So these documents showed that Tether was set up in the British Virgin Islands by the same individuals running Bitfinex, and these arrangements were previously undisclosed to the public, even though there were plenty of people that were like asking about this stuff. So once these papers came out, there was a lawsuit. So the ownership revelations formed the basis of a major U.S. lawsuit, which alleged that Tether and Bitfinex manipulated the crypto market to benefit themselves, and that Tether's claims of being fully backed by US dollars were false. That suit claimed that Tether issued unbacked stablecoins to inflate the prices on Bitfinex and misrepresented its reserves. So this was like a huge thing. And there's like these emails of people going back and forth talking about how essentially they were like propping up the price of Bitcoin. You could see like these emails of them saying like, we need to mint this much of it now to make sure that it doesn't crash or something crazy like that. And these are like emails from Bitfinex. So I couldn't find them today, but we'll find them at some point. And I'm sure some of you guys probably have even seen some of these documents yourselves.
Could you explain to someone and myself too, in terms of how would they effectively achieve that? Like, how could they prop up Bitcoin through these practices?
Yeah. So essentially, like if we have no visibility into whether or not there are actual dollars that are backing the stablecoin, then we get these huge moments over and over again. We see this every day almost where Tether mints like 400 million Tether. And so with that, like, okay, where did the $400 million come from?
Mm.
And if it came from nowhere, then that $400 million worth of Tether could technically be used to go out and purchase Bitcoin in the real world. And in that scenario, you've provided this support and demand for Bitcoin that may not actually exist outside of this Tether ecosystem that they've just created out of thin air. So that's kind of all it would have to be.
So how would that even collapse? Because what would be the impact? Like, how would that even get to a point where we could prove that, one, and then two, where it would have a very negative impact to bring it back down? Like, it sounds like a scam that would be pretty. If it was like that, it sounds like it'd be pretty hard to prove.
Well, I mean, those emails were pretty
Pretty damning.
condemning.
Okay.
But I think you're right though, as far as like the actual digital forensics around it. I'm sure it could be done. I'm sure it
Yeah,
has
yeah,
been
yeah.
done, even honestly. But and I think that's one of the things too about this. It's just so weird that like the largest stablecoin in the world that has been there this entire time has this whole conspiracy that just lingers over it, like the entire
Mhm.
time, basically. And yet it just continues to go on until the Genius Act got passed. That changed a lot of things right there.
So what changed with the Genius Act? Let's outline that for everyone because that's a big deal. The legislation that's getting pushed right now in the States is really shaping the future of this industry, and it's why everyone should be paying attention because the fact that this stuff has even gotten to this point when there was no security, no rules in place, tells you that it can explode very quickly if things go the way that I think they can. Because there's rules, right? And so, do you mind explaining that?
Yeah. So just like any other sort of money market company, you usually have to report to people that are investing in your offering that you're holding the assets that you're saying you're holding. So in this case, we have Tether, which is essentially like you can think of them as a bank in a way. They're now any stablecoin provider in the United States now has to actually fully disclose what is backing their assets and the actual process for what that's going to look like. I actually don't know 100%, but I know that in the Stablecoin Act, they have said, hey, you have to back your assets one to one with short term US treasuries or cash equivalents, right? And so that goes also into our thing that you were just saying, Ben, about how, well, what does this mean for the United States and why is this so beneficial to the US? And there it goes. So now we have these digital assets that can be purchased by anyone, anywhere in the world that now must be backed if they're issued in the United States. They must be backed one to one by US Treasuries, by short term US Treasuries. And so this essentially sets a global standard for what all stablecoins that are representing dollars must do. They all must buy short term US Treasuries in order to be allowed to operate in the US.
Got it.
So, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's a massive deal for a bunch of reasons that we can dive a little bit deeper into. So, everybody, there's a reason why when you have a $20 bill, you can go basically anywhere in the world with an American 20 or $100 bill, and people will take it for the value that it's worth at its home country. That's not a thing with like any other currency. It's just not. And so if you can essentially give that to people in a way where they don't need the physical bill, that's a huge win for America to maintain this stranglehold over fiat currency that they've had for a very long time, which is huge. And also, if in the global trade scene, America's really been able to do a lot of the things that they've done over the years because there was such a massive demand for their dollars. And so that's started to go down, as Keith's mentioned in previous episodes, as people are less and less confident that America can maintain what's done and pay back its debts. And so, with that, this basically creates a massive amount of demand for the US dollar, which can help alleviate some of the problems that the States has with their crazy amount of debt and that decreased demand. It was kind of like a bad to worse situation that this can come in and kind of act as like a bit of a save the day kind of thing. So that's a big thing to understand.
Yeah, that's the big thing here is on a global stage, US treasuries and US dollar is kind of phasing out of demand. You have like the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa that are saying, yo, we're not really cool with you guys having the dominant currency and like bullying us with that. So we're going to find ways to move around this. And Russia has been probably the most vocal about this. And they have also even very specifically come out and said, well, the BRICS nations have come together to come out and say, we're going to use a cryptocurrency like instrument to circumvent the US dollar. So that, by the way, has been on record since like 2017 or something. I think they first started saying that. We're moving into a world where countries are looking to find a way to get off the US dollar. And to go back to Currency Wars by Jim Rickards, 2012, this was already a discussion. Like, this is what that book is about, is that what would these governments do to be able to wean off of the United States dollar? And what would that look like? What impact would that have on financial markets? What impact would that have on geopolitics? And what would we do as a reaction to that? In that book, the main scenario that they go over is having a gold backed currency, right? As the way to circumvent the US dollar. And if we've been paying any attention, not only to the price of gold, that actually came after we've had over the past few years, these governments all around the world absolutely hoarding gold, uh, really, really going hard on buying as much gold as possible. And so with that, we've definitely started to move into the place where if that is what these countries want to do, move to a gold standard, there's a good chance that they would probably be in position to do that right about now. And the price of gold is obviously soaring
It's
to all
crazy.
time highs, as we said. The last thing that I wanted to say on Tether was that we did have right after the Genius Act was passed, Tether announced the USAT stablecoin for America. Right.
Yes, yes, yes. Can you explain what that is, the differences between the two?
So so I'm just gonna read what I'm seeing here. Tether is launching a new US regulated dollar-backed stablecoin called USAT to serve the American market, which is distinct from its existing global USDT coin. The new coin is designed for US residents and institutions, will be subject to US regulations like the Genius Act, and aims to provide greater transparency and institutional access. And by the way, wow, I'm tripping. This is going to be led by Bo Hines, who was formerly the director of the cryptocurrency task force in the United
Mhm.
States. So I didn't even notice that, but that's a big part of this too. The when I saw that, I was like, oh, so Tether's not following these rules.
Right now, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, we can move on.
Totally. Yeah, no, the largest stablecoin on the planet is not following these rules. That's a little bit, concerning, I'd say, at the very least.